Hello, everybody. You muted yourself again. Hello, everybody.
No, I did not. You muted me. You just decided to switch it up this time.
Yeah, I know. I left myself out. So, welcome to
hey,
my stage. I'm Mike, and with my lovely co-host, Christy London, medium and Reiki master.
You said that right.
I know it's been a whole day of practicing. It's been
freaking time.
Forward to tonight's show. Got some sun today.
Right.
Dealt with some crazy spirits, and it's been kind of a wonderful day.
That's good. Yeah, I think it was like that all around. Everyone I talked to is saying that. I got out with a girlfriend. It was awesome. Catching up.
Good.
Well, the sun and the summer weather really helps all of that and picks up our spirits and lifts our spirits too, and just, it's amazing. So, yeah, we all need it. That's for sure.
So,
get out of their houses.
Tonight, we are coming from, let's see. Yeah, from space. We are coming from YouTube, from Where's My Sage, Facebook, Where's My Sage, the dog room with Amore barking in the other room, Christy's personal page, Tactical Bigfoot Research on Facebook, and WLFEDB Radio, our new home. We'll also be putting this pre-recorded cast out. This is live tonight, but once we're recorded, I'll be putting it out on Spreaker and iTunes. Yes, you can listen to us in the car if you're bored later on. And this will be one heck of a show tonight. We've got a great guest, and
so excited.
Man, I can see him hiding down there in the grounds.
I mean, we love all of our guests, but this one's just from the second I met him, that was it.
So, couple hellos here, and then we've got some great things. Hello, Marilyn. And
hi, Marilyn. Hi, Keith.
And Kim.
Hello, Kimberly.
And Denise.
And hello.
Michelle.
Hi.
And Anthony.
Hello, Anthony.
And let's see, Linda.
Hi. Hello.
Nina, that's a new one I've seen making a comment. Carrie's in.
Hi, Nina.
And
hello. Wow, so many people.
Shereen.
Love it.
And Lori. So, over the last couple of weeks, we've been doing some reading shows, and Christy put a little contest up on the last two, and we had a couple of folks that won half an hour of free readings. So we still haven't heard from the first two that we announced, and we're going to pull from last week's show. And then
we had so many people. Did you see this list you wrote?
Yeah, between the readings and trying to take that list and me trying to type on 2 different computers,
And the back. Yeah, Mike did all this. How many do we even have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 27, you guys. How do we get our names into the contest? Why, we share the broadcast. So I'll do it again tonight. Share the broadcast live while we're live. And if you want a free reading, if you want to be put in there, if not, please just share it anyways. But if you want a free reading, a free half-hour reading with me, or a chance to get into my wine cup here.
Hello, Billy.
Share it. And then please write share it up here so we can see it. And then, I tried to help, but Mike seems to be really on top of that. So he'll make a list of all the names.
We're prepared for that this evening, but okay.
What? Oh. Yeah, but you don't have to do it now. We can go back later. Oh, sorry, my bad. See, we're really impulsive. This is what we talk about when we say we're kind of impulsive that way. Rather, I'm impulsive and Mike just has to handle the repercussions of it. But that's okay. It always works out.
I'm just going to have to cry later and in my corner by myself. And we'll start another. Okay.
That was really bad of me. I'm sorry.
So,
I didn't realize you had to set up specifically for that.
Surprise! Yeah, well, I don't even have a notebook, so I had to pull the other computer out.
Oh my gosh, get out here.
Okay. Why there's
So please put it out there and share. You want everybody to see. And just a little public service announcement. I will not be doing any readings tonight, but next week is another reading show. And wait, is it next week or the week after? Week after.
Yeah, we have Tara, and actually, let me put that up quick.
Yes.
So, our upcoming shows. So, we have Chris Cesare tonight, the Ghost Boy of Geneseo. Then June 2nd, we have Tara Scabella from Naked and Afraid. She is also a Tantra energy healer and a survivalist. Got my eyes closed trying to remember exactly everything here. June 9th, Chrissy will be doing her spirit messages again. On the 16th, it's going to be a boys' night. Got a couple of friends coming in from the cryptid world, and they keep telling me they'll be here and not be here, but I know we got a couple of guys that are signed up. Steve Cull is definitely in. Jay will be back, and maybe a couple others. On the 23rd, Chuck Porter from the radio show from South Carolina, Salute to Service. It's going to be a first responder military show, and we're going to talk about paranormal experiences with first responders and emergency responders, military folks, crazy stuff that they've had. Chuck and I have been putting this idea together for about 3 years after I met him, and finally we're going to give it a prelim here. So if you're a first responder or a veteran and have a paranormal experience or a cryptid experience and you want to get on with us, please come on. I've got a couple of folks. I've got a constable from Pennsylvania. I've got a former Army Ranger and a couple other guys that have had experiences while on duty. And we can turn around and keep you anonymous and, just get your voice out there. And then on June 30th, the Reverend Tim Shaw. So if you would like, Christy, go ahead and pull that, and we will get to our amazing guest.
All right. So just like last time, if we had over 20, I'm going to pick 2. So it's for a free 30-minute reading. So you'll need to get a hold of me. I will post the names, even for the last one in case I missed it. So here we go. All those names are shake, shake, shake. All right. First name is Sean Ann. All right.
Oh boy.
So, congratulations, Sean. All right, let's do it again. Ready? Okay. Second name is Karen Miller.
Okay.
All right. Congratulations to our winners. If you're not interested, and you really, if you don't want a reading, that's okay. But if you let me know, I'll be happy to do a 5-minute live, and I'll save these for a couple of days and I'll pick again. So if you don't want one, please let me know and we'll pick somebody. Because there's a lot of people out there who would love one. So, and that's okay if you don't, but we'll just make sure someone gets it. Right. So, yes. Yep. All right. So we got all our business out of the way, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
All right. What's it called?
Haha, you said duty. I like this guy. Who is this guy? All right, Tom. Hey, listen.
All right. If you're going to jump on things. All right. So we're going to bring on our guest.
I have control over here. All right. Okay. So our guest is I met him for the first time at Rochester Parafest. And oh my God, I laughed my butt off the entire weekend with other people too. But man, he was right across from us. And Chris is just the coolest guy. Yeah. So go ahead, take it away.
Actually, I think we found Chris hiding with Bigfoot, the buddy of the Bigfoot. But then we found out Chris pretty much in the education, definitely doing some reading in front of us. So Chris kept us entertained.
I thought he was just slacking off.
Yeah. So with further ado, I'm going to bring in Mr. Chris Cesare, the Ghost Boy of Geneseo. And Chris had an experience at a Western New York university, SUNY Geneseo, which is close to home for me. And wow, we're getting some weird feedback all of a sudden. I wonder if that's me. So, Chris,
Welcome,
I met a
Chris.
couple years ago. Yes, so welcome, Chris. Can you hear us okay?
This thing on?
Yes, that is on.
Right.
So,
Thanks.
how are you doing this evening? How are you surviving COVID? And you got some fans here.
I'm doing well. You know, it's I was telling my wife, this is exciting for me. You know, you're two very high quality people. You're professional. You're intelligent. I love being around people of quality, and so this is great. What show is this? Oh, that's tomorrow. No.
Reading going.
How dare you call me high quality?
I really was. You know, when you go and teach a lot during a year, it can get grueling, the schedule. And the time off has been nice for me, but you miss it. You miss it. It's kind of like when you're raising children. You're like, these kids, they're always around. And they leave, you think, where are my kids? You know, so it's like that. And I'm just psyched because my daughter, son-in-law, and my granddaughter are moving up to New York to my home on July 4th. So my dream is coming true. So nothing can stop me now.
Awesome.
I love it.
That's awesome. And if you ever see pictures on Facebook of Chris's granddaughter, oh my God, she's so cute. I get to see her out. She's awesome. So cute. I just pinch her little cheeks. It's Italian in me. Sorry. I could just. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, all right. So, Michael.
So.
I can talk more about it.
I can't believe there's a lull. What's up with that?
Tonight,
claps real nice. You can dance well like this, you know.
I can't. I'm totally at a loss tonight.
Hello. Forget it. You're out.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this then. I want to thank all of the people who are listening, who are in the chat room, for taking the time out to be here with us. It means a lot to me as well, because having gone through the experience I went through some 35 years ago, I didn't think I would actually live through it. And to actually be able to do that, and to have extra days, and to see the sunsets, and to hear the birds and the flowers, and hold my kids, I'm thankful for every day that I have.
That's awesome.
So, Chris, you ended up going to school in Western New York.
Yes.
SUNY Geneseo, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful school.
Yes. Nice rolling hills, a nice valley. What brought you to Geneseo?
Well, I was a runner. I ran distances, and I was, at that time, nationally ranked. I could run 20 miles and not break a sweat. Now I go to the mailbox, I'm winded. And I had some full scholarship offers. Quinnipiac in Connecticut, and Wittenberg in Ohio, but I didn't want to have the pressure of a full scholarship over my head in case I wanted to stop running, in case I got hurt, in case something happened. And so Geneseo was a nice alternative. And I went to the campus. It was so beautiful. It reminded me of Mayberry RFD, but in color, you know, and there are flower pots in the windows, ivy on the walls, the beautiful valley overlooked, you know, the nighttime, the lights go on one at a time. It just felt to me like it was a safe place to be. And so I chose Geneseo in spite of having to pay more for it, because that felt like a healthy place. I liked being there. And sometimes your environment has a big impact on, you know, what you do. If you like your environment, you're more healthy. So, well, I'm away from home for the first time. I'll be running and learning. And so put myself in a place that's very nice. That'll put me in a good state of mind.
And at that time, it was pretty much like an honors college, wasn't it?
Yeah, I took a 6-hour exam. And if you got 90 or more in all 3 sections, you got your whole first year of college for free. So I did that. I got my first 15 credits just gratis because I passed those tests. You know, so that was kind of cool. It saved lots of money. It made me feel like I was smart for a short period of time, you know. And you know, you make a choice sometimes that affects your life. So just that was what I did, and I thought it'd be smart. And it was very good for me unknowingly, because in that room, unbeknownst to me, was a gentleman, a student named John Jeff Ungar. He was also taking the same exam. And this is back, we were in high school in 1983. I would meet John Jeff about a year and a half later at Erie Hall, and he would become the person who would record what happened during the haunting. So ironically, he had noticed my name on the list, Cesare. Sounded Latin to him, so he made note of that. And years later, when I went to Erie Hall, he recalled my name and me from that 1 6-hour test a year and a half before. So a lot of synchronicity.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So pretty quiet campus, huh? Pretty quiet town.
Well, at times it was quiet. At night it rocked. People with blue hair, red hair, green hair, no hair. People hanging off of light posts, one sock, no sock.
Oh.
It's like a Dr. Seuss, red sock, blue sock. It's. I remember there was a blue and red Budweiser sign on one of the windows of the dorms. People would go up to the Vital Spot or GJ's in between. They could stagger at home looking for the light. They collapsed. They found home. So it was very fascinating. And for me, it was a little scary because I had grown up in a very structured environment. A mom and a dad. We had dinner time. We had weekend church time. I ran. So it was very, very schedule oriented. And I was worried for these people because everything got me to college. Everything got me to pass my school classes wasn't that. It wasn't this thing at 2 a.m. It wasn't peeing in the fire hydrants. It wasn't like imbibing all this alcohol. So I was worried for these people, but they seemed to be doing okay. But I was a bit wary of it. I didn't want to ruin everything I'd worked for, but it was entertaining. It really was. And
Not swimming in the fountain in town, and
all those things. So it was like a whole new world. Is that a song? Yeah.
Yeah. Squirrel.
Exactly.
So you're running, you're going to school, and then life takes a little turn, huh? Takes a little change.
Yeah, it was I remember in the fall of 1984, it was a nice time. The Olympics were held in Los Angeles. People were yelling, chanting USA, USA, wearing flags on their chests. And I think Greg won 49 states that year, so we politically were kind of unified that way. It had been a nice fall. The music, MTV was rocking with, I want my MTV. It was amazing in VH1. It was a good time to be alive. And things changed for me when my friend John Jeff Unger mentioned that there were going to be some speakers coming to the college. They were demonologists, they called themselves. I had never heard of them, but their names were Ed and Lorraine Warren. And he wanted me to go with him to this lecture to see Ed and Lorraine Warren speak. And I had no actual interest in that. And I remember hearing something about Amityville horror or some eyes in a fireplace. I didn't really put much stock in that. I didn't follow that. I was running, playing baseball, having, doing more, grounded things. And I didn't want him to go. And he said, he said the magic words. And the magic words were, it's free. When you're in college, so nothing to lose going. So I went with him to this presentation. And it was packed. There were hundreds of people, young people, old people, male, female. And it was freezing out. This was January 30th, 1985. And so I knew they must have been famous, like you said. And we went into this auditorium. And when Lorraine walked out on the stage, this was the day before her 39th birthday. She was elegant. Her back was straight. Her gown was gorgeous. Her hair was up. She made quite an impression, even on young teenage kid like myself. She reminded me of like a 1940s movie star that my grandma would talk about when I was a kid, And the one thing about her was you don't have to believe what she said without losing the fact that she did. In other words, when she talked to you, you felt inherently she was saying what she believed. And that's powerful. If someone says to you, this happened to me, you may not understand what that means or how it affects you right away, but when they look at you, they talk with you, not at you, and they share, it pulls you in. And so I found myself drawn into this lecture. And Ed, he had a booming voice with like this New England accent. And it was like Colonel Parker and Elvis, paranormal style, And they showed these slides, these black and white images. If you're a very young person, there were still images, and that supposedly showed spirit form or images, shadows. And they played these things. I'd never heard the term before, EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, and I didn't know what they were. It could have been a goat making a noise, could have been a creaking bed, but when they played it, it did sound weird. Those sounds didn't sound right to me. Didn't be uneasy, kind of queasy. And the thing about that is, you can watch Game of Thrones, Star Trek, Star Wars. There are a lot of amazing fantasy out there, Harry Potter, and really be involved in it. You can pull yourself in and get the series action figures, talk with your friends about what's happening, read the books. It's not real per se. And so even though I didn't necessarily put much stock in what they were saying initially, it was a great show. I mean, I would have paid to see it looking back, even if it wasn't free, looking had I known. And toward the end of the presentation, Lorraine Warren looked at me and she said, like attracts like. And I was like, just look at me for it, right? And I was a little nervous about that. And when the presentation ended, they said, come on up and meet Lorraine. Come meet Lorraine Warren, say hello to her. And, oh, this is so great, so great. And my friend Jeff had his notebook, and he has these questions to ask her. 1, 2, 3, 4. He wanted to ask her something, and we had a chance to do this, And so he pushed me ahead of him, so I'm in front of him, so he can have more time to think of his question. And the lines were forward, and I just want to be polite and say hello. I don't really know who she is. And I get to the stage, and she looks and she says, I won't shake your hand. And I thought for sure it's the college. Someone's being rowdy behind me. Someone's wearing no pants. Someone's throwing something across. Something's happening, right? So great. I look behind, and it's just she's looking at me. And she said again, I won't shake your hand. I don't want to know my future. And with that, Ed was alarmed. Ed became alarmed at her reaction to me, and he pushed me off the stage. And Jeff was so confused what was happening, he never asked this question. He never got one question out. He just ran off the stage and, what happened? What happened? What'd you do? Did you make a face? This is my face. Sorry. Yeah. They were going to go on a investigation on the campus looking for activity. Because most colleges have stories, true or not, of somebody falling down a well, or a war prisoner, or a lady in white by the store. There's always a hanging. There's always some story associated. And so Jeff wanted to go with them, these demonologists, on this ghost hunt, this investigation, and I didn't want to go. My feelings were hurt. I was thrown off the stage by these famous people. I knew what I did wrong. And so Jeff was being a good friend, and he turned that opportunity away, and he went down to our dorm, Erie Hall, and we were in my room, C2D1, which is the C building, second floor, D quad, first room. That's why they called it the Haunting. And he talked, and he said, well, what happened? I said, I don't know, Jeff. He said, well, she thinks you're sensitive or something. Are you sensitive? Like, well, I am now. I up a stage. Of course I'm sensitive. My feelings are hurt. I wasn't expecting the same level as he was, But he really felt that moment that Lorraine Warren sensed something in me in that moment, which I didn't quite understand. And I should tell you as an aside, I met Lorraine's daughter and son-in-law about 3.5 years ago. And it was at an event we were at, and her daughter Judy said, oh my gosh, you're the ghost boy. My mom loves you. I said, yeah, that's probably a different Chris.
No kidding.
You see? And she explained to me, I had it all wrong, that her mother, when she passed last year, her mother, when she would meet people, would read them. She'd read their aura, she'd glean things from them, she'd sense them, that's what she did. She was a psychic. And she wanted to be able to attach to somebody. So when I came on the stage, it was like this bright light. I was like blocking her ability to read. And that got in the way of what she's being paid to do, what she's expected to do. And so it wasn't that she was angry at me, didn't want it. It's just that I guess I overwhelmed her in some sense. So all these years, for 30 some odd years, I thought, wow, she was mean to me. I feel embarrassed. I never took the time to reach out because I didn't want to bother her again. And then I was finally told years later, no, it's not that at all. And so it's funny how you can be observant, you can be attentive and still get things wrong. You still don't quite understand what's happening, and your fears or your ignorance can control your actions, even if you mean a good thing. Look at the marriages, 50-50 for divorce, and it can be people still might be in love, they just can't communicate properly. And it's just to show you that, keep an open mind if you can, and we all should. And that, toward the end, I was able to reach out to Lorraine and things, and that was nice. So there was some closure on that. So
awesome.
That's amazing. I would have loved to have met them. I would have loved it. Yeah,
they were larger than life. They really were. I mean, people use that expression all the time, but they really were. They're iconic even back then. And like I said, they really believe what they said. You can argue about the accuracy of what their decisions were, or you can argue about maybe profiting off the paranormal. You can argue lots of things. But I can tell you, in meeting with them, they really meant what they said, and I like that. I really do. I think it was Walter Mondale. He was trounced by Reagan in 1984. He was trounced by him, But he said, listen, I spoke my mind. And then there's honor in that. There's honor, So you might not always win the battle. You might not always achieve your goal. But, if you try your best, there's some honor in that, integrity.
Well, sure. To be genuine is very rare, because of, stigmas and fear and just.
This is Ed and Lorraine's library. This is their library. This is a Spanish monk they got in Europe. This is Ed and Lorraine.
Really?
In Connecticut. Yes, that's a nice thing. So I have 2 of these, so I bring them with me to go and talk to people. It's kind of cool to have something that they had in their study. So
That is so amazing.
Yeah.
I just always admired, just not even with the movies, but I think even the movies that were made about them also, portray them in a way where you can tell that they were close. You can tell that they had a connection. They understood each other. They genuinely cared about each other. They genuinely knew that they were meant to be together. And that always strikes me because it's rare,
Story. She had these abilities since she was a young girl. She talked about that sometimes. And at first, Ed wasn't quite sure what to make of that because that wasn't what his background was, but eventually he learned to trust her. And so what happened was they would be driving out someplace and she would say, Ed, it's not the car. There's activity in that house. That house has activity in it. So he'd stop the car. He'd get on an easel and start painting the house, like a painting on the easel. What are you doing out there? What are you doing? Or painting your house. That's really nice. Want to come on in? So by using the painting, they would then get invited into the house, and Lorraine would say, hey, do you hear things? Yes, we do. And so that's how they got their start, by just having painting the person's house as a nice thank you. And then they were brought into the house. And the first time they spoke, Ed said that he got $50, I think, to speak at a small middle school or something like that. And that's how it all began. They just loved what they did, and they just spoke about it. And they found creative ways to earn people's trust. And it became this amazing now worldwide brand. But it started with a very little idea, how do we get to this house to help them?
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's cool. Very, very neat.
Hey, I'd be amiss if I don't share this one. Your boy Billy says hello.
Billy's great. Hi, Billy.
So, yeah. It's great working with him. So, Jay, there's a few others that have popped in, but I definitely want Billy's been blowing up my phone, so I just wanted to make sure if not going to work is going to be a little hard if I don't let him know you're here.
I love that area. There's some great people up in Western New York.
Yeah. So
thank you. Yeah, we try. Yeah.
So you go to this thing. Is it right after you have your experience, or is it a while after you have your experience?
It's about 12 days later, approximately 12 days. And, sometimes you don't realize when things begin. You just notice when it begins to get strong, like the first wind, or the first turning leaf in the fall. You realize the leaves are now gold and brown and red. So the first thing I remember hearing or noticing was on February 11th, I was in my dorm room in Erie Hall, and I was working on a 20-page paper, and I heard somebody whisper my name, Chris. And I was working, so I just said, door's open, come on in. I kept typing away. And I heard a second time, Chris. I said, the door's not locked, just open, I'm doing something, open the door. I was a little annoyed, just open the door. I heard it a third time. Like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with these people? So I was aggravated, I stood up, I went to the door, opened the door, and there's no one in either direction down the hall. Now, at that point in time, I ran a half mile in 2:08. That's fast, No one can outrun me. And I bolted for the door, so there was nobody there. But I thought, sometimes sound travels, it echoes. Maybe it's out the window. I was on the second floor, so I looked out the window onto the path, and no one was there. So I figured, it must be a joke. They're playing a joke on me, practical joke. They're trying to bother me. Here's the thing. I learned from running marathons, control your environment. How much water you consume, your pacing, all those things, the hill work, the drafting. And so I realized if I can't hear them, they can't bother me. I put headphones on. And I put a CD into Paul, my roommate's CD player, stereo, and I played Sammy Hagar. I Can't Drive 55. I'm just playing that song. Problem solved, right? My environment's controlled. They can't bother me. They'll go someplace else. On the second refrain in the song, I hear in the headphones, over the music, Chris. I threw him on the ground, turned the headphones off, and left that room. I thought, what is going on? I've seen people lose it before big state exams, before marathons and things like that. People's nerves get to them. I thought, well, what's going on? Is there a gas leak in the room? Is there drugs in my food? Am I having a breakdown? Or is there a practical joke? I didn't think the idea of a ghost was likely, and so I didn't think of that at all. But as time went on over the next few weeks, we began to start seeing this thing form in the room and having books fly across the room and breezes and flashing clocks and lights. We began to eliminate thing after thing after thing. And then finally, I remember 2 days later, I saw this person standing in my room over my shoulder right here. And I had a box of candy, hot tamales, or like cinnamon flavored candies I'd gotten. And I'm eating these candies. Remember those?
Yes, remember those. I live on those. Who do you get?
We can't go on an investigation without her having hot tamales everywhere.
Oh my God! Listen, I had my son, my firstborn, and what does my father do? Bring me like a 5 pounds of. What do you want, honey? I'll bring you hot tamales. I got this big old bag of. Sorry, go ahead. But yeah, hot tamales. Oh yeah.
It's funny how you remember things in a crisis. If something happens, big news, what's on the radio, what you're wearing that day. Sometimes your mind catches like glimpses of things you wouldn't normally pay attention to. But I thought, this is impossible. There can't be a person behind me in the room. The door's in front of me. Right. I'm on the second floor. The window's locked. It's February. It's freezing cold outside. And so I was going to count to 10. And I'll count to 10 and they'll be gone. So I started to count. I got to 7 and I could still see it moving back there, swaying. So I turned my head and there was this thing, this young man. His head was tilted like he'd been hanging from a tree, you know, and his eyes were open, his mouth was agape, and his body was coming out through the stereo. And I realized that is absolutely impossible. You can't, that's not possible. And so very calmly I screamed, threw the candy in the air, and I bolted. It was the first time in my life I ever panicked over everything. And I ran it the whole way. First door I came to, bang, 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 bang. Help me, oh my God, help me. Because I didn't know if I had snapped. It's a scary feeling because if you can't discern your environment, if you can't know what reality is, it's dangerous for you, people around you as well. And in that room was Ed and Jeff. And I fell on the ground and I kept on saying over and over again, I can't believe I panicked. I panicked because for me, regardless of what I had seen, whether it was a hallucination, a joke, reflection, or actual ghost, the fact that I panicked means I lost control. And when if you're a surgeon, if you're a teacher, a police officer, a parent, if you panic, it hurts everybody. And I realized I'd panicked. And so I didn't say anything about a ghost for a while. After about 3 or 4 minutes of me saying I panicked, Jeff asked, Chris, why did you panic? And I said to him, there's a ghost. There's a ghost in my room. And that's how I began to share my experience.
Now, at that time, Chris, I mean, you had what, especially out there, what, 3 channels, TV channels? You didn't have,
right?
You know, the SUNY system. You didn't probably have that many cable. I mean, I went a little later, and we didn't have that many channels in the dorms. And so, how many ghost shows were on TV back then?
I don't think there were any. In fact, I mean, there are some movies once in a while. Like the Shining was out, right? Jack Nicholson and things like that. What's the one with the Psycho had been out years before, but it wasn't like today. There were no ghost hunting groups, no shows to explain what terminology is, what equipment to use. It was nothing, and so there was nothing to balance off of.
Yeah, so there's nothing to say, okay, I watched this before I went to bed or before I went out. You know, that's what was on TV. You know, we probably had Golden Girls and MASH or something to watch or something like that. So I do have a question because as I've thought about this, you know, I've seen you speak a couple of times and you watch your shows. When you got up to run every day, where did you run? Did you have a set running route?
Well, in the morning, that was on us. We had to do distance work in the morning. So in the morning, we run between 3 and 9 miles in the morning. That was on us to choose. In the afternoon, the coach would pick it. But I would usually run down past Tennessee Hall, out to 20A, down that direction. I'd go out on the wheat fields, down by the bridges, you know, through the farmlands because it was good for your legs and your knees, not to pound your legs and knees too much. And it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. There's nothing better than having the wheat, like at the bar of the alfalfa running, like swaying past you. And it's beautiful. I would love that, you know. And yes, I'd run around and come up the big hill back to college, up to campus. So that's what I would really do. Yeah.
So you went down into Lake Lester and down by the
almost every day I go down that way, and I come up the big hill over the bridge there.
Okay, so you went by Fallbrook and you went down by the that's just wondering. So
the Boston Marathon always has Heartbreak Hill, so I always put the hills in my training runs. Right in my mind, I'm running Boston.
Okay, that's awesome. I was just wondering, you know, just those 2 locations have some interesting history.
Right. Yeah.
And
talking to yourself and to Billy Boyd and to Ted Van Zandt and people like that, I've learned, you know. But at the time, they were just nice places to go. There's a waterfall, you know, at down the road. There was a beautiful river down the road. Letchworth was down the way. It's a gorgeous place. I didn't know the history of that. I just liked the area, the way it looked. It's good for hiking, right, and running and all that stuff. So I loved it.
Right.
But one thing I can tell you is that seeing those things made me nervous, and sharing those things made me more nervous because, we work very hard to have a certain public appearance. And I mentioned this when I speak about in high school. Jocks, stoners, brains, geeks, nerds, metalheads. We try to be something to show people who we are, even though we're really not that. That's the image we have. But when you start being called the Ghost Boy, people start to react to you based upon their perception of you against your will. That's difficult. And so I noticed that one of two things would happen. People I was friends with for well over a year would say, "Yeah, well, I'll give you a call sometime in the future," and they'd no part of this at all, or they would say, "I want to help you. How can I help you?" And it's interesting how you don't always know in advance who will do what. The person you might think will be with you, has your back the whole time, you would think, yeah, they might run, and the person you think has no interest might be your standing by your side in those moments of crisis. And my grandfather fought in World War II. He was Pacific Theater. And he taught me, when you're down in those trenches and the Japanese are strafing the island and things like that, there's no black, no brown, no white, no red. You're people. And you pray the same, and you bleed the same, and you eat the same, and you sleep the same. And he taught me, to be open-minded in that way. And so that helped me tooth the haunting, because his words were, listen, observe, don't judge so fast. So having heard things like that was helpful to me too. I was very lucky to have two loving parents and loving grandparents as a foundation. Everyone has that in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So you ended up in the room with Jeff and Ed, correct?
And well, Ed was unnerved by the whole thing. He would say things like, "Jeff, get him out of here. Jeff, get him out of here." He didn't want any part of that. But Jeff came back with me to inspect the room. He wanted to see what's going on in the room, and he noticed that the clocks were flashing. Now, so I should mention Jeff. He grew up watching things like In Search Of, and that's incredible, those TV shows. And Jeff, as a child, was fascinated by the paranormal, fascinated by it. He always hoped that there was some truth to it, that there'd be something out there, not just fairy tales. Because when you get older, you realize some of the stories you heard weren't true. They're for kids. And it's depressing sometimes to think there's no magic in the world. It's just punch the clock, go to work, eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, go to sleep again. And he would go in the backyard with his flashlight, try to signal UFOs, and nothing would happen. He'd look for a Bigfoot, nothing would happen. See a fox, and he got to college and thought maybe there's nothing to it. And so, ironically, when I ran into his room saying, "Help me, there's a ghost," for him, it was a wonderful opportunity to maybe believe, to maybe explore. And so right away, he wanted to investigate what this was that was happening across the wall from him. And so I couldn't have picked a better person to run to by chance. And in fact, he began to document. He said, "Everything you see, everything you hear, you tell me." And so I think you have an image of the notes. He began keeping the C2D1 journal notes. And those are meant for he and I to examine privately. Okay, what are we hearing and seeing? Was it a certain time of day? Was it weather like that day? Would you eat? Try to find variables to analyze to see what was causing this. Ironically, the Syfy Network, Trvl Channel, Please Talk With the Films, book writers all use those notes as the backbone for their research, because it's a real-time, contemporary, unedited account of the trauma and the fear and the chaos that surrounds an extreme haunting. It's a little embarrassing for me, the things I would say, but I was in crisis. And looking back, I'm proud that Jeff had made the effort to preserve them in a sense and to keep them whole, not to edit them or sequence them for better understanding, because otherwise it wouldn't be legit. So I'm very proud that they still exist, and I usually bring them with me when I go to speak. And
I mean, that's a big thing, is that for those that, are catching this at a later time and on iTunes or Spreaker or one of the other podcasts, if you refer to the video here on YouTube or Facebook, but at that point it'll be probably YouTube, you'll be able to see it. Or we'll be putting Chris's website up a little bit later with that, and you have images right on your website of those notes. So It's kind of cool to see that documentation is there. I mean, most of our listeners and viewers know that I'm a big guy for documentation. And that's really cool that you had that contemporaneous notes in photos too, correct?
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't necessarily want to prove it true. I wanted to stop. So as Jeff was saying, let's get evidence. Let's document this because this can be fascinating. I mean, can you imagine this thing is calling your name? He's speaking your language. I mean, it must be sentient then. It must have a purpose. It must have passed on in someone's soul. Is there a heaven? Is there a hell? What about the great religions? We can go Mike Douglas show. You know, we can share this and transform society. This is, and that's someone's father or brother or son, but they wouldn't give to talk to that person one more time. And so that all made sense. When the thing is like looking down your face or breathing down your neck or grabbing your foot and things that was with me, I just wanted to stop. So he took a very logical approach. Mine was very emotional just because I wanted to survive, and I didn't want any part of this. I would throw things at the ghost when I saw it. I would scream at the ghost. It wasn't like the movies. In the movies, you have your shotgun and you have your crucifix and you have your holy water and you fight the demons, they blow up, and then everybody loves you and you're a hero. You have a horse and you get in the horse and the girl's in the back there and off you ride and you're a millionaire. But in real life, it's not like that. There are no predetermined outcomes in that sense. You don't know what to do, what's wrong, what's right, or even if what you know is correct. And so those notes are great for me. And so what began to happen, though, is that my roommate began to see this thing as well. And it began to get very active, very physical, where it would, in the middle of the night, it would be looking at me this far from my face and be breathing in my breath. My face would be numb, like almost like ice, and breathing my breath out of my body. And I'd scream and run down the hallway, you know, and it would like grab my foot. It would pull my pillow out from under my head. It would just constantly torment me and call my name. And eventually, Paul and I said, we can't do this anymore. And so we went to get a priest, because in the movies, what do you do back then? You get a priest. And so luckily for us, Father Charlie Manning at the Interfaith Center agreed to come to our room. He read Jeff's notes. And because I didn't want to talk about this. It was too hard to talk about. I was too embarrassed by it. But in reading the notes, the priest could then read what's happening and me not have to relive it every time. And so Paul and I took Jeff's notes to the priest, and he agreed to help us. And he, on March 6th, he came to the dorm. He brought with him a suitcase, and he had a Bible in there. He put some oil on my forehead tip of a cross. He had holy water. He went to the corners of the room, and he said some prayers. It wasn't like on TV, though, where, you know, you have explosions and green slime. It was a ceremony, and it was pretty interesting. It was very calming. And when it was done, I asked him, I said, is it over? Am I safe? Can I come back in the room? And he mentioned to me that, you know, it wasn't exorcism, it was a blessing he did. And the blessing asked the spirit to find rest some other place. This way it helps me and the spirit. He said that as long as I don't invite the spirit back in the room, it won't come in. I said, that's never going to happen. Thank you for that. And then lo and behold, the next few days, everything stopped. No more wailing, no more whispering my name, no more shadow figures, no more full-bodied apparitions, no more clocks flashing, no more lights going out, no more cold breezes or wind, no more things by the ceiling, no more doors opening. I didn't understand how it worked, to tell you the truth. There's no science I can understand that a man of the cloth, a priest, comes in, he puts oil on my forehead, some holy water, reads some prayers, and it stops. I couldn't understand how that happens, but you know what? I was happy because he had stopped, to my understanding, the haunting. It's kind of like if someone says, I love you, you used to say, I love you too, or thank you. Don't say, why do you love me? Because they might think and say, well, why do I love you? That's a good point. You know, if something's going good, enjoy it. Don't ruin that moment. So I was great. And then 4 days later, I was running down back toward Leicester area, and I was running up the hill, and I came back on March 10th. It was a Sunday, around 3:30 in the afternoon. I took a shower, and it got dark inside the shower stall, and I looked up, and there was that thing again right above me in the ceiling. And I didn't want to believe it. I thought, man, sometimes you rub your eyes, it leaves like PTSD. The priest had been there. He raised his cross up. The ghost was gone. I'm just having this flashback. Then it moved. I watched it move across the ceiling, and I realized, well, wait a second. The light source is up there. My shadow's by my feet. There can't be. There can't be a shadow there. Light. That's where the light is. It should be it's the ghost. What should I do? Calm down. I'll turn the shower off in the water so it doesn't flood. I'll go call the priest again. Round 2, Father. I turn the water off, thump, and I'm smashed. I'm pushed, lifted off the ground, and smashed face first into the wall in the shower. I remember tasting the soap they used to clean the shower stall. It tasted a little bitter, like sharp. Ooh, thought my teeth were knocked out. But in the movies, there's always some girl, she falls down, her ankle breaks, she cries. Are you an Aries? That's not me. So, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's like,
I'm an Aries.
Yeah, I am too. Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. But I fought.
All right, you know what? Forget you.
But I fought. I turned and I punched. If someone's attacking me, whatever it is, I'm going to fight. And I put the shower curtain down, and the room was empty. Not a sound, nothing. An empty bathroom. And I stood there, and I screamed, "Who are you? What are you, coward? Show yourself. Show yourself." Nothing. And I thought, oh, my back. Like I just stabbed at my back. I looked in the bathroom mirror above the sinks, and there were these 3 roughly parallel scratches from my neck area down to my hips, bleeding. I thought, what the hell is that? And I remember distinctly looking in the mirror and thinking, that poor kid, he's going to die. Like watching on TV, And I thought, no, whoa, time out. That's me. Why am I going to die? What did I do wrong? And I felt sad for myself. I felt like it wasn't fair. But then I remembered my history lessons. I remember the 6 million Jews who were killed, their bodies piled up at the showers, in the gas chambers. They probably prayed. They probably cried. They probably had dreams and hopes and loves and plans for the future. And God didn't help them. So I thought, he's not going to help me either. What do I do? I didn't know. And either because of the pain or the shock or the fear, I fell over onto my face on this floor. And I'm lying there, and I really can't move. But I see on my wrist, there's a droplet of water, a bead, like a pear-shape of water, just looking at me. It's glistening in the light of the bathroom. I just keep looking at that. I'm focusing on that one droplet of water, and I can see in the droplet of water, the room was inverted. I thought, water refracts light. That's science. That makes sense. Then it fell off my arm, and I was sad. Remember Wilson from Castaway, where the ball? That's so stupid. What happens? You attach yourself to these things that aren't real because they mean something, but it could be grandma's perfume, be grandpa's tie tack, things you might hold on to that mean something to you, and that is worth $4. And so my waterfall was sad, but then I thought, wait. The water falls because why? Because of gravity. That's science. So refraction is science. Gravity is science. I looked down by my face, and the grout, the tile of the bathroom, was darkened from what? The moisture of the water. That's science. So I'm saying to myself, I'm not crazy. These are real effects on the environment that's happening, but I don't know what this is. And I can't keep fighting it. I can't put my brain back together again every day. It's going to win. It's going to wear me down. I'm going to lose. I don't want to die, but how do I live? And I'm lying there thinking, don't make a face. If I'm in the casket this way, my mom wants to see a bad face. So I just lay there, and then luckily Jeff had heard me scream. And Jeff came in there and he put a towel around me, pulled me out, and then Beth was there and Ed was there, and they also the scratches down my back, and I wanted to go to the hospital. And I wouldn't go because I would think I'm hurting myself or I was insane. And think about that. I mean, that makes sense. Something's wrong with him, but I knew. And so every time someone says intervention time, understand the person you're trying to help doesn't see your way. Whether they're right or you're right, you have to bridge the gap first. I would have fought them, physically fought them and punched them, not to go to the hospital, not to be sedated or wrapped up or put in a small room where they could find me. So it really made me think about disability, about everything from dyslexia to mental illness, to all these things, because a lot of times we can't know what's happening in someone's mind or in their thoughts. And it's important for relationships, whether it's a client and a customer, or it's a person you love, or a child or a family member, to try to understand where they are and meet them halfway. And so that was a tough time.
Now, this continued to affect other people in the hall, correct?
Yeah.
After you had the shower.
Yeah, it's interesting that this ghost, this spirit, we called him Tommy. He seemed to be very angry. What's that?
Why did you name him Tommy?
Oh, well, there's a picture. I think it's number 2 of my hands out like this. I don't know if you had that picture or not, but
Yep, right there.
On Valentine's Day, about 3 weeks before, Jeff had said, before the priest comes to bless the room, let's get some evidence, because the priest might send the ghost away. Let's get some proofs. So I agreed with Jeff to go in the room and to call the ghost. And so he had to put my arms out like that and face the front of the room and call the ghost. So, of course, I'm an idiot. So I get the payphone. Operator, hello, ghost, please. He goes, that's not funny. It doesn't count. So
it wasn't his room.
Right, how do I call a ghost? He said, well, feel for his name. Like, feel for his name? What does that mean? I don't know what that. How do I feel for his name? I know RBIs and home runs, and I don't know what that means. So pick a name. So I picked the name Tommy. I had a parakeet named Tommy. Ironically, Paul, my roommate, called him Tommy for a different reason. I think because of Tommy Knockers. And somebody else called him Tommy because Tommy Can You Hear Me, the song. So 3 people independently called this thing Tommy without any corroboration, and that made Jeff fascinated. Is, my gosh, 3 different people all call it Tommy for different reasons. So we just agreed on the name Tommy. But that's my parakeets thing back home. Anyway, so I started to call this thing, hey, my friend wants to take a picture of you. He wants to see you're here. Can you please show yourself? And as I'm doing this, you can, if you put the picture back up again, I'm going to show you something. This
this
wind,
is fascinating because I didn't understand this picture.
blows at me, and it starts pushing my sleeves back. It's a heavy sweatshirt. My sleeves are pulling back with my arms. My see that? And my chest, there's pushing in against my chest. And the cardboard's blowing back behind me, bending. So this wind, this huge wind, freezing cold like ice in a closed room with all the windows and doors shut, began to push from this closet area. And the door opened up. The door unlatched and opened up, and there was the thing. And I said, Jeff, take the picture. Jeff, take the picture. And he put his camera up, the flash cube went off because we're old school, and the ghost went right at me. It had a fear, anger right through me. And that was scary. It felt like my whole body froze and then unfroze, and I fell on the ground. And Jeff's like, where is it? Where is it? I said, Jeff, I'm going home. I can't do this anymore. I'm done with it. I'm going home. I'll dig ditches. I'll pump gas. That's what they would say in the old days. We did for this college. Pump gas. I don't care. I'm doing that. It's safer than this garbage, And so he says, well, before you go, please, where is it? And so I looked up and I saw the ghost above my bed, above the pillow. And I said, he's right there. Where? Jeff, the dead thing looking at us is the ghost. Take a picture. I don't see it. Jeff, the dead guy, he's right there. Take his picture. He couldn't see him. So Jeff was smart. He said, if you see him, take my camera, you take the shot and see what happens. I said, I'll do one, then I'm out. I lifted the camera up, I took the picture, and I bolted out that room. And then he got the picture developed, and that's picture number 3, I think. And you can see above my bed, there's a skeleton. There's a poster of Bill Rogers, the runner. Then there's my blue pillow, and in the corner, you'll see the skeleton. You'll see the pelvis, the rib cage, the sternum, the clavicle. Right where I had pointed was a human skeleton. And once those pictures got out, people heard about the blessing, and the pictures got out. It was all over. I mean, I was the ghost boy. People would point at me, and I had to hide behind things. The newspapers came, television stations came to talk to this ghost boy who's spending time with this ghost in his room. But it wasn't like that at all. People thought I was having these conversations at 2 in.the morning, but I was just throwing things at it, running. But especially back then, there was much that you had of evidence, and so that was what. See the old TV set back then with the old knobs on it.
and again, those folks that are listening on iTunes or Spreaker, please go take a look. I mean, these pictures, you can see the pelvis, you can see the holes where everything is, and you can see the ribs, and it's definitely it's interesting. It is definitely interesting. Yeah. So I'm going to bring you back up there.
Yeah. So. I told Jeff, destroy the pictures, burn them, get rid of them, because I don't want to be reminded of it. To me, it was, and I don't mean to make an exact connection, but it's like being brutalized or beaten down or raped in a sense. I have no control. The thing is going through my body. It's controlling my life. I felt disrespected and ignored, and I felt like a freak, and I didn't like it, but Jeff, he kept a level head to listen. We're going to hold on to these for now. And I'm glad he did, because now that people over the years have accepted these things as being more common and people want to hear my experience, it's nice to have some visual aids to show, to suggest, well, here's what we're seeing and experiencing. And that's rather just having hearsay, So looking back, again, Jeff, there's no ghost boy. There's no me here now without Jeff helping out in those times.
And then Billy's got a quote here. Back then, if you came forward about thinking it was a ghost, you would have been considered mentally ill. And Maryland, the same thing is it's very likely those things weren't talked about. I don't think it's been the last 5 years or so. I mean, you guys have been on the circuit a little bit longer than I have, but I mean, I'm trying to think when I first saw some of this stuff come out. I mean, you right to the mental institute, especially if you're at school at that time. What would you take? Would you do? Would you,
Right.
Yeah, so, and unlike today, college was a rare thing to go to college. Now everyone goes, they get a loan they can't pay back. But in the old days, to go to college, you had to earn to go to college. And, my grandparents didn't go. My dad was the only person to go on both sides of my family to finish college. So I'm going to be the first one to drop out of college. What do I tell them? If you're hearing things in my room, my uncle got shot in Vietnam. He came back. My grandpa got malaria. I mean, I'm going to hear voices and leave. I mean, it was terrifying, but I don't explain to people I don't want to be a failure. And so I stayed. And because I felt I had to stay and do the right thing, we kept on researching this haunting over time. We got more evidences and more witnesses, and we had Dr. Lawrence Kassler, professor of psychology at the college, help us with the EVPs. So against my will and trying to disprove everything, we actually came up with one of the most interesting cases there is. And that's, you can plan your whole life out, but life takes its own course sometimes, and you have to go with the punches.
Yes.
And you got that kind of support from the campus. That's kind of interesting. The Interfaith Chapel, and Father was right there from the Catholic Church at the top of the hill, and another professor. I mean, that's kind of ironic that you would get that kind of. You'd think they'd be like, oh no, not on our campus,
It was no, and I'll explain why. The Catholic Church itself, Father Gordonere, would not help me. He thought it was a joke. He thought it was the kids would steal the body of Christ. They would steal it and try to prove it's just wafer. They would disrespect things. So he thought it was trying to make him look like a fool. But Father Charlie Manning at Interfaith Center, he helped us. We referred to him by the church. So the church, no, but Father Manning, yes. And the college itself said, keep it down. Don't talk about this. This is bad. But that one professor said, I will help you. So in other words, individuals stepped out of the comfort zone. Individuals took their professional careers and reputations to help, which makes it all the more meaningful to me that for some young 19-year-old kid who is hearing these voices and seeing these strange things, they would do that for. So I'm eternally in their debt.
Just out of curiosity, when you were going through this, would you notice that you were more sensitive in other places? Would you notice that you would hear things or pick up on things or sense things or see things elsewhere? And not necessarily with this ghost. I mean, anything, someone else's loved one, just a random rogue spirit walking around.
I think that's the case for anything. I remember being in Spanish class, and one day I looked over and I noticed this girl was very pretty. I'm like, that girl's pretty. That girl's pretty. That girl's, wow. I remember those girls were pretty before. I had action figures. I played baseball. One day I realized this is pretty cool. And all of a sudden I noticed all the girls, There are no ghosts necessarily, but I saw one ghost, like, are there more ghosts? So I paid attention to these things, and I began to then hear things and see more things over time where I began to realize it's not just one ghost in the world. There are spirits that are active around us. So I think there's a moment of like realization. It kind of washes over you like, well, wait a second. If that's possible, then maybe this is too. I should watch that just in case. And a lot of times it will transpire,
So looking back on your life then, can you say, just in general, did you ever feel different? Can you say that, yes, you can look back and say that you were in tune with your gifts or some of your gifts? That you were gifted in some ways? I
would pray almost every night, take it away, take the ghost away, the gift away. Because Lorraine Warren was talking about like leads to like, that there's a gift in me. Jeff was talking about a gift that I had. The priest said that you might have a gift. It's not going to go away. Everybody kept telling me you have this gift, accept it. And I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want that, and so I fought it for a long time. And it was only really in the past, I'm talking 20 years later, I said, you know what? It must mean something. I want to share what happened to me because maybe it's helpful to somebody else who also has a hard time. Because it's like if your first date in high school goes bad and you're beaten or they rob you or you're drugged or something like that, I'm done. I'm not going to date anymore. I'm done. It's a lobo solo, the lone wolf. You might have to not go do those things. My experience was so devastating, my first experience like this. I don't want to talk about anything, ghosts or anything. I put in a box and hide it away, but it's in your head and you can't ignore it. It's part of who you are. And eventually you have to deal with that. I made sure, because I was a dad at a young age, I was a school teacher, things like that. I kept it tight and never going to leak it out. But eventually I realized, you know what? I survived. I survived this, and it wasn't easy, but I'm a better person for it. So if you survive cancer, if you survive loss of a child, you have unemployment, all these things, survive a war zone, those are good things. And so I figured, I can talk about surviving. And that's how I decided to start talking about my story is, what do? You write things down, trust in a friend, eat your food, sleep at night. These are things you can do regardless of whatever your crisis in life is going to be. And so that survival thought aspect allowed me to share my story for the very first time 11 years ago.
Wow.
I needed that.
And you had friends, though, too. You had Jeff, and you had a couple of other friends that stuck by you, didn't you? With the remainder of that experience.
And Judy. Yeah, it was nice. It was, But see, when you're a teenager, though, you don't know if the girls are because he likes you or because he likes you. You know, you don't know if they're friends or if he wants to help you or wants to find information out about you. I mean, so you're never quite sure. You're so young. But I can tell you that when the ghost scratched my back and I was in Jeff's room on his bed, all bloody, Jeff got his camera out and he said, "Hold still. The light's getting dim outside. Natural light's fading. I want to take a picture of your back before it gets too dark outside." And I said, "Jeff, no." He goes, "No, I want to get a picture of your back because you're scratched all up." And I said to him, "Jeff, if you're my friend, you will not take that picture." I had to know in that moment, was he my friend first or the researcher first? Is he there for me or for the ghost? I had to know. I've only known him for a few months, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, I said, "Please, if you are my friend, put the camera down." And he said, "I'm your friend." He put the camera down. And I knew at that moment, he was my friend first. And I needed that. As a human being, I needed the affirmation that I mattered. I wasn't the ghost boy to him. I was Chris. Now, looking back, what a dumb thing. Take the picture, Jeff. But
I was just gonna say, you picked like one heck of a thing to make him not take the picture of.
But I'll tell you though, I have a friend for life though now, a brother for life. You know, I can't underestimate or overestimate how much that meant to me over the years, that he would put aside what he really wanted, what he needed for my well-being. That's a great human being. And he's an incredible person. You know, I'm proud to know him. And so even though there's no picture of my back and the scratches, you know, it saved my friendship. It led me to move on in a positive way. And, you know, Beth saw them and Ed saw them and Paul saw them and a lot of people saw them. So it was as though, you know, they weren't seen. So, but listen, again, not a movie, not a script. This is how life plays out sometimes. And sometimes you have to give it to someone in need and, you know, bite the bullet sometimes, right? If you raise children, oh, okay, this time only, you know, or you're married, like, you know what, this is the last time I'm putting up with this. But you give sometimes, right? Because you want it to work out. And that's what happens.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Awesome. Go ahead, partner. I see you got a question.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. It's all right. Go for it. Either we're talking over each other or there's like nothing.
Nothing. So, because now you've had this incident in the shower. Yeah. It's now moved down to Beth's room, correct? So now it's moving up and down the hall. Yeah. That was scary. That was scary, Mike, because, you know, the priest does a good job. He gets the thing out of my room. Now I'm safe, right? What does it do? It attacks me. Then it begins to attack my friends. And what do? Chris, help us. So its actions then draw me to it. So not only did it circumvent the blessing, it then controls my behavior because I care about my friends. And I'll never forget it. We tried to have some little tiny parties sometimes. A few people just have balloons and things just to get rid of the fear, you know. And I remember we had a little party and Beth arranged the party. Beth arranged it. And she lived one dorm down. It was the same dorm, but different section of the building. And she was late for the party she arranged. So Jeff and I went down to see if she was okay. And she had a boyfriend at that point in time who wasn't too nice. He seemed a little violent to me and Jeff, and we tried to protect her sometimes. And we got to her room. Her door was open a crack. We looked in, and the room was trashed. The lights were knocked down on the ground. The couch was flipped. We thought that her boyfriend came in and beat her up, and we went to call the police, you know. We make sure she was alive. Also, was her feet just still, lying still, her, like she's motionless. I'm like, oh, God, Jeff, don't touch anything. Let's walk in. Don't touch no fingerprints and see what we can find out. And she was unconscious on the floor. And when she came to, she saw me. She goes, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Are you okay?" She goes, "Yeah, what's going on?" I'm like, "Listen, if he put his hands on you, I'm calling the police. Right. You don't have to do it. I will call the police because this cannot happen. I won't let my friend be beat up by somebody." She says, No, it's the ghost." What? The ghost kept calling your name, and I started throwing things. And I'm like, wow. And Linda was held down in her bed. We have pictures of that. She can't move from her bed. And Brian was on his leg, picking up his leg. And this thing kept on doing all these crazy things, you know, and it's bad. And even when we get evidence, you know, evidence is cool to have. So when you have a cassette tape where the ghost is saying, "Help me, Chris, help me." You know, people are going, "Oh my gosh, it's saying your name on the tape." We have an English language. It's talking in this isolated room, locked up, verified, nothing. We guarded the room, nothing was in there, and these voices are on here, and this is incredible. We have pictures, and I was crying. I'm like, how am I going to help it? I don't want to hear it say help me. I don't know how to help it. What do I do? I don't know how to help this thing, and I can't celebrate it. It was just really a difficult thing, you know, and it wasn't until really people started getting hurt like this where I decided I have to do something about this. I was scared. You know, it's kind of like it
if you were to walk outside tonight by yourself, just walking for exercise, for, your heart health, and you see some small child, 2-3 years old, is drowning in a lake. They're drowning. You see no parents. They're going under. You're like, and they see you, make eye contact, but you cannot swim. You have two choices. You can walk past the child. I'm sorry, baby, I can't help you. I can't swim. I'm sorry. I'll try to get someone in time. Or you jump in, maybe drown with the baby at the same time. My parents raised me. A good person helped. I decided I would face this thing. I would go in. I would go back in my room. I would break the blessing, save my friends, and I would talk to it face to face. I was scared out of my mind, but that's what happened. I made a choice like Jeff did. Jeff helped me. He was brave. Linda, Beth, they were brave people. You know what? I should be brave too, right? And so I decided, since I was the ghost boy, it's up to me to keep calling my name over and over again. No one else's name, just every person will call my name. So, Keith heard it called Chris. Brian heard it called Chris. Linda, they never called him else's name, so it was focused on me. And so I decided to actually face it. And that was on April 13th. You're talking about 2 months later.
Now, when you saw it, what was it dressed like?
The first time I saw it, it had these strange, when it was the stereo, coming out of the stereo on February the 11th or 12th, it looked like it was wearing, I couldn't describe the clothes to Jeff. I couldn't describe it. I didn't know what it was. It looked like maybe blue jeans, but they weren't like today's blue jeans. They were like raw, just like sewed together roughly. It was very bizarre. It was like frills on the sides, and I couldn't place what kind of pants they were. And the shirt, was it a polo shirt? Was it a sash? I had never seen that kind of clothes before. I didn't recognize what it was, but I know there's some yellow there and some blue. And so I said, maybe kind of like a polo shirt, but not a polo shirt at all. But I didn't know what it was. I just tried to find didn't know. Usually I would do that. I saw it one time in a tree. It's gone now. There used to be a tree outside the common area of Erie Hall, the C Quad. One time it was in a tree like this, just naked, hanging from the tree, and its fingernails were missing, and its mouth was bleeding, and its eye was gouged out, and his stomach was torn open, and the branches of the tree were coming into his body. It was disgusting. It was horrifying. I thought, oh my God, this thing's trying to torment me. It's evil. It's evil. And I called that Hell Week because it would keep showing me itself all damaged and mangled up. I thought, how evil, sick. I hate this thing, And then the last time I saw it, it was like me. I decided to go in my birthday suit. That April 13th, I went, took a hot shower. I walked in just butt-ass naked because I don't want to wear a power tie or it's just me being honest, like when you're born. And so I walked in the room, I lit one candle, and you're cold because you're naked and it's wintertime, and you got the shower and the water's going on your neck. It's like, and then there it was. And I, came across the room and it stood there just like I was, just naked, just like I was. But I never saw below its knees. It was always like this mist. And it attacked me not long before that, and I was very scared. I learned from playing soccer, your hips control your movement, your direction. Your hips do. So I kept my hips kind of turned toward the door just in case. And I told one person, Craig Norris, I said, Craig, I'm going in there. If something happens to me, please give me your word. You'll tell my parents this was my choice. I'm not on drugs. It's not a dare. I'm not brainwashed. I have to do this. Let them know this is my choice. Please, I beg you. At least they'll know I wasn't controlled by somebody. He cut my shorts behind the bathroom, and I went in that room, and I talked, and it was freezing cold, and I was so thankful it didn't smell, because, sometimes you think maybe dead body will smell, and there was no smell to it, but it was cold like an icebox, like a freezer, and I could see him almost always like tangible, like a real physical form, not that far away from me, and I said, why are you here? I didn't understand. Why are you here? And he said, so much pain. I can't do the voice. It's a more guttural thing. I can't even try to do it sounding, but it was freaky sounding, but so much pain. And he said, made big mistake. So much pain. And I don't know if maybe he committed suicide, if he killed someone. I don't know I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that it was obviously clear to me, his pain, his guilt had kept him from resting. Whatever he did or felt bad for had prevented him from finding the rest that I thought he should hopefully have. And I remember Jeff said to me, Chris, if you ever talk to it, if you ever man up and do this, ask questions. Close-ended questions. We can find out who it was, not things like, how's the weather, or what, how do you feel? And so I remembered, and I said, where are you from? And he said, Danville. Got it. Danville. Tell Jeff Danville. Tell Jeff Danville. Got it. Okay. And then I said, you can't stay here. You're hurting people. One of the kids in the college committed suicide. Kept hearing the voice call his name and committed suicide. That's a hell of a thing to have on your conscience. My friend said, please help him. He's hearing these voices. I refused. I know how to help him. I can't stop it. What am I going to do? I didn't lift a finger to help him. And he committed suicide. I never saw him again. So, those things weigh on you, it might not have made a difference. Suicide is something you can't predict. It can happen in one moment of a day, but I look back, I felt real guilty about not even trying to help this young man. And I think that's one of the reasons, too, I walked into that room to face this thing and try to, make things right. And I said, listen, if you want my help, you can't stay here. Find rest. You have to believe someone still loves you. Whatever you did, there's forgiveness. You've been calling me for months. You've been hurting people. You can't stay here. Find rest. And he put his hand out, and I would not take his hand. I didn't know what would happen. I don't know what does that mean. I'm not thinking a deal here. I'm telling you, you stay in your corner, I'll stay in my corner, and we'll talk. I look at in the movies, it's cool, right? You hug the ghost in the movies. I'm hugging the ghost, but in real life, it's not like that. He just attacked me. I felt scabs on my back. I'm not gonna hug this thing now and happen to, oh no, or if I go, forget it.
And you're standing there naked.
Yeah, right. It's like, this is a great look. This is a great look. Where's the wallet? And I said, the night you came, I counted to 10. I'm doing it again. I'm going to count to 10. Close my eyes, count to 10. When I get to 10, you cannot be here. You cannot be here. And against my judgment, I closed my eyes. And I counted 1001, 1002, 1003. I had to have faith because he looked so sad. When he said so much pain, he looked like tormented. I'd never seen someone that sad before. I wanted to hate it. I wanted to strike it. I wanted to kill it. It hurt my friends and destroyed my life. It's just terrible. But I couldn't because it looked so sad and needed so much help. I couldn't fight that, And I got to 10, I opened my eyes, and nothing. There was no ghost in the room. But it doesn't mean anything. And so I waited. That night I slept on the couch because I couldn't put my back on the bed because the scabs off. So I slept on the couch like this, like curled up like fetal position. And in the morning I woke up, still no ghost. And I didn't say anything. And then 2 days later, Jeff came back from his home visit and he said, hey, what's going on with the ghost? What's happening with the ghost? I don't know. Why? Because no one's saying anything. No one's heard the ghost in a few days now. What do you think happened? I'm like, let me tell you. And then I told people what I had done. Because I didn't want people to assume that I said it's true. Because sometimes you get an investigation and someone goes, look in the corner. Where? Over there. What do you see? I see a shadow. Yeah, me too. It's tall. Yeah, it's tall. Abraham Lincoln. Put it on Facebook. People just kind of go with the flow to feel like they're part of something. Yeah. I don't like that. It's just I want to have the facts create a truth, not have a plan that put facts into. And so I was very careful all through this haunting not to disclose things. So when Paul said he saw a person in the room with a tilted head without me telling him that, I knew he was seeing what I saw. So I tried all along to disprove things, and I couldn't do it. And so eventually I realized it's real. People don't believe that, but it's real. Just like pain. Your pain, anxiety, depression, people can't see it, but it's real, and it colors everything that you do. And I remember looking out the window before the end of the haunting in this cold room with these breezes and sounds and noises. People outside the window were playing Frisbee and laughing. What's that song? Let's hear it for the boy. And We Are the World. They're playing these songs, right? They're falling in love on their beach blankets. I'm like, inside behind this room, I'll never forget. I was in Pennsylvania about 3 years ago. I was at the Steamtown Mall. And this guy walked to me and goes, oh my God, you're the ghost boy. You're the ghost boy. I'm like, yeah. He goes, you're my hero, Mr. Spock, Luke Skywalker, and you. You're in the papers here. You're in Geneseo, right? I wanted to be you. He wrestled like, I am the ghost boy. I was his hero. So he said, what was it like to be the ghost boy? And I explained to him how terrifying it was. But you know what? I was amazed because here I thought I was all alone in the world at times. No one understanding me. No one would care. In this little cold room. A kid I didn't know, a young man I didn't know, hundreds of miles away was cheering for me, rooting for me, praying for me. Because just to show you, and I found out 32 years later, you're never truly alone. And if you put your hand out, someone will grab it. They might look different, sound different, talk different, but the human hand is there. Take the hand, swallow your pride and lift yourself out of that place, you know, because someday you'll be helping somebody else out, and that pays it forward. So I learned a lot from this haunting. I mean, it's scary, the ghost is fascinating, but I learned so much about just appreciating life and you know, and friendships.
So, Chris, while this was going on, because you said you came from a pretty tight-knit family.
Yeah.
You know, did you talk to your family about any of this? Did you share what was going on? What was, you know, how did that all, did you do anything, or did it not come, you know, did nothing come about from that?
That was a difficult choice. My father was a science teacher, very smart man, very fair man. The rule was, you need it, we give it to you, you want it, you earn it. I didn't want to lose his respect. He had trained me to run marathons. I was 14 years old. I ran the Montreal Marathon. I was running 26-mile races. He made me an A student, a straight A student. He had me achieve these amazing things. He was my friend, my coach, my father, my guide. I didn't want to let him down. And I knew if I'd say things like, oh, there's a ghost, I'm failing classes, I'm not running, but what? I didn't want to, you know, hurt him. So I went home for my birthday around March 30th or so, just for a couple of days, because I lived 5 hours from Geneseo. And at the end of that vacation, I said, just, you know, Dad, I'm failing my classes. What? I'm not running. What? There's a ghost in my room. What? What are you talking about? Just let him know.
Excuse me?
I remember saying, like, stop saying that. Don't fool around. It's not funny. Don't joke around like that. That's not a funny thing. You know, I get me worried about, you know, Chris. And so then when Hell Week happened right after that, where I'm seeing this thing with the stomach split open and intestines falling out of it and all these torture things, I called him. I said, Dad, something's happening. It's real. I know what it is. I need your help. I can't do this because I wanted to leave college. And my father made the 5-hour trip in 4 hours. He dropped everything. He brought a baseball bat. He brought a cross and a handgun. All those things, not knowing what was going on with it. Now, here's the thing. I am so lucky and thankful to have a dad who would drop everything for his son 5 hours away to them I'm too busy. I love that. He came to that room. He said, oh, my God, you lost this weight. What's going on with you? You're a mess. And I said, Dad, I can't sleep. You go to sleep tonight. What's here goes through me. Whoever it is, whatever it is, goes through me. So for the first time in months, I slept the night. Because I'd go from place to place in the dorm to sleep different places so it couldn't find me. I'd sleep in the dining area. I'd sleep in the main area. I'd go from place to place, my friends' rooms, so it couldn't find me. And I don't, you know, it was terrible. And so in the morning, I woke up and he was just exhausted looking. Let's go for a run. I said, okay, Dad. So we went for a run. We didn't talk for about 20 minutes, just ran. Took steps in the wet grass, just running and running and running. And then we got back to the room. He goes, change your room. I'm like, what? He goes, change your room. I'm like, oh, okay. He goes, just get out of this room. He didn't say anything, but to say that means something's wrong, right? It wasn't until the Syfy show, 25 years later, that he went on television. He had found out I was going on television for the first time, and he said to my mom, look, I don't like this stuff. I don't talk about this stuff, but it's my son. He's going out there to risk everything he has. I want to be there for him. So my dad went to New York City and he filmed. I wasn't there for that. And so I'm watching the TV show and there's my dad. I'm like, oh my gosh, my dad? And in the TV show, he goes there and he leaves. People say, what a terrible father. No. He dropped everything for me. He ran with me, kept me safe. I love that man. He said that ultimately, you have to solve this. Just gather him and solve this. I believe in you. And so while the TV show is on, we're having a little party. Yay, I'm on TV party, first time. I leave the party and I go to the back and I call my dad. He's in Florida. I'm like, Dad, you're on television. He goes, I love you. I have your back on this. There was something in that room, in that closet. I saw the shape in there. It was definitely there. I don't want to scare you. So that was amazing to me, you know, and it's still hard to apply in your daily life, though. But I can tell you, after the haunting stopped, you know, in the middle of April of 1985, I went on vacation with my family a couple months later. We went to Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia. And while we're in Williamsburg in this old building, my mom wanted a picture of me. Like, geez. So as I'm standing there at this big place, I hear this clock ring 3 times. Boom, boom, boom. There's no clock, but I hear it. Then I hear a woman scream. Ah! And this lady runs past me like her hair's on fire. Ah! I'm like, what the? So in the picture, I'm like this. Right? Yeah, just not much has been developed. There's no like, cell phones. You had to send to Rhode Island, get double prints, 4x6 things. So a month later, the
Right.
people come back, and there I am in this building, and next to me are these clocks saying 3 o'clock in the air. These white ghost clocks all saying 3 o'clock above my head. And there's a lady running past her hair on fire. My mom was like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, I told you. So I knew then it wouldn't stop. I knew that at that point in time that I couldn't deny these things are part of my life. I couldn't deny it's going to happen again. But I was determined to keep my family safe from these things. I was determined not to experiment too much. I was still unfamiliar with this. I still had scars from the battle. And to keep my kids knowledgeable but safe as a parent.
How did you do that?
Well, I would tell them stories. So, for example, before bed, I would tell them a story about a homeless person or a princess, a doctor or a teacher. And the stories about my story, my experience. So they would problem solve the experience I had without knowing it was me. And it wasn't until, because this way, if I told them ghosts are real, they're going to come get you, I might push them too far in that direction. If I ignored the ghost possibility, they might be oblivious like I was. That's not good either. So I gave them problem-solving scenarios that weren't me, but actually were my actions. This way, if it happened to them, they can solve it on their own without having the burden of being my son or daughter. It wasn't until a sci-fi show in 2012, my son's like, "Oh my God, that was you, those stories," but oh my God. I don't want to push them too far, because listen, if you're Mickey Mantle's son, Willie Mays' son, it's a lot of pressure on you. It's hard to be someone's son or daughter, and have that same pressure. I mean, I'm the ghost boy, not because of me, because people around me, because of Father Charlie and Dr. Kessler and Jeff Unger and Beth Kinsman and Linda Fox and all these people. They made me the ghost boy and let me survive. Without them, I'm nothing. I'm some crazy guy in the corner. But they made me who I am. I owe them everything. Talking to you on this show right now, the people in your chat room and listening on the radio eventually, I mean, I'm only here because people believed in me and found value in who I was as a person. And I want to spend every time I can, every second, sharing my thanks and being grateful for being here. You can't go it alone sometimes.
All right. That brings me to the next thing. You've come off this ghost thing, but now you're helping a lot of people. You're helping community. You're helping young kids. So you are out there helping. You've talked to us about, what you do with your students, and that's absolutely amazing. And do you think this experience and that growth has helped you bring them what you want to have to be that next, and like I said, I volunteered to come down there. I know a lot of guys in the community have offered to come help you and your students. And I mean, if you want to talk about that or not, I mean, I know that's a big part of your life, and
I work at a special access school, and a lot of the kids are residential. They have no homes. They can't go home. Their parents were removed from their lives, or they took themselves out of their parents' lives. Many of them have been abused or molested or lived in poverty. Most of them read at a third or fourth grade level when they're in high school. And I'm not alone in this. There's an incredible staff that works there, teachers and teacher assistants and one-to-ones and hall monitors and guidance counselors and principals, administration. They're a great team. And our job is really to help the students make better choices, to help them believe in themselves, to give them skill sets to survive in the world when they graduate, if they do graduate, or get them job skills if they do not graduate. And to let them know that, yesterday is over. Yesterday happened, and the pain will always be with you, but it doesn't have to be part of your future in terms of what you do. And so we start each day a new page, and we learn skills and listening things. And just so I love it, and my job is to role model behavior. I role model behavior. If they scream at me or curse at me, I don't curse back. I say, I understand you're upset. It's hard sometimes because, you want a certain respect as an educator, as an adult, but where they're coming from, they don't know what it is. They've experienced respect before. And over time, when they realize only you say, brush your teeth, only you say, try harder, only you say, how are you feeling, they realize after a while, it's not an act. You actually care about them. And they need that. So for this pandemic, this has been rough because some of the kids we have don't have computers. They don't have power in their houses. Some of the kids, they're quarantined because, they couldn't afford any health care and they had the coronavirus. So we do online education now, distance learning. And we go online and 11 o'clock in the morning and I speak with them and we watch a movie together. We talk about the movie we learned. And so, I'm very proud of that. I couldn't have done this without that experience of having the ghosts go after me, because I would have been too caught up in my own ways. I wouldn't have appreciated people suffering. So ironically, crazily, I mean, this horrible thing that happened to me made me a better teacher and a better person. You can always grow more. In fact, see my beard? It's terrible. It's the worst beard ever. But I'm trying my best. This is my coronavirus beard. It's great.
So yeah, somebody was asking if you had a mask up above, and we do have a question from the audience. And how have your students reacted to all this since the Syfy show and Mara and Jeff's documentary?
Jeff, as you know, was the one who recorded the notes during the haunting itself. He was my battle buddy. Mara Katria was the individual who directed the film Please Talk With Me. She was the first person I trusted to tell my story. Because, when you go on TV, you make movies, they can make a joke out of you. And this wasn't a joke. This wasn't a funny thing where the dog's in the microwave oven and people,
right.
it wasn't like that at all. It wasn't a joke. And so I trusted her, and Bill Edwards Mara directed it. She won awards for that, and Bill produced it. And I trusted them. They did an amazing job. And because of that, we began to speak at different colleges, at Geneseo, at Penn State, places like that. And that's how Syfy discovered me. One of these lectures, somebody from Syfy came and said, "We're on TV now." I'm like, "Thank you very much." Next. People say it all the time, right? And then next thing I know, I'm getting called from NBC, and that's how that changed for me. And that was a scary thing too. I don't know if I wanted to go on television. It's a very personal thing, and sometimes people are jokes. I don't want to be a joke. And I tell my students, try to be honest if you can, with yourself and others. It might hurt to be honest. It might not make you comfortable. Let's say you solve problems that way. Being dishonest doesn't help you. It's a temporary fix that ignores the problem. And so I can't go on TV and lie. I'm not going to pretend in a movie. And so I have worked very hard with Mara and Jeff and Bill and Carrie and all the people who worked, and Kyle Shea, the actor, and all the people involved in the film, to create a genuine experience that was true to the facts. Syfy found out about that and said, "Ooh, please put that on hold," because we went first dibs on that. So Syfy said, "Let us go first, delay the film, and then you put your film out." And that was good because Syfy got the credit for putting it out first. And then Please Talk With Me, the film, got the advantage of having it be known nationwide because of the Syfy show. So that was pretty cool, But the first day of class, every year, I play the Syfy show. I'll say, "You want to see something on TV?" Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, that's you. Oh my God, that's you. That's you." Then why are you here? If you're on TV, why are you here with us?
Right.
Why are you wasting your time? I say, that's your fit. I choose to be here with you. I want to be here with you. I know a lot up in here. I can share it with you. You have to want to learn. And they realize I don't have to be here, but I am here. They like that. And I think that's part of the investment process. This guy on TV, he speaks the weekend. He's on Trvl Channel. He's in my classroom, and no one even likes me.
Yeah.
He talks to me, and he helps me out. So, I try to use that as part of my attachment to them and try to make a relationship that I love them.
And you use this link right here for your students, correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
So on Daily Motion, and we'll put it into the chat rooms and stuff when we get a chance there. Get it up there. So that's one of the videos. So you can go right online and take a look at that. And it's search for Chris and go to that one there.
It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. There's a young Chris from who's talking to young Chris from Syfy. There's young Chris is running around now.
Yeah.
All the young Chris are running around. I'm over it.
Right.
Oh, all right.
I think one of the things that I noticed, especially after I watched, I had, gotten to know you, but we never really talked about your story or had a chance to talk about your story at the Parafest. And so when I was looking into that part of things before the show, and then watched also the School Spirits episode, I named this episode Sugar High because I always felt like I was on one with you. It was amazing. We laughed. We acted like all of us. I mean, Mike's known you for a long time, but I felt like I knew you for 10 years. Like, you're just that easygoing. We clicked real easily. Like, it's just the kind of person you are. So there's that high energy, that lighthearted side to you, and you're a very genuine person anyways to talk to because that's just who you are. But then I watched you in these these interviews and this talk that you gave before a tour one time years ago, and then there was a 30th anniversary, a couple of things with that I watched, and I listened to you, and then I watched the episode, the School Spirits episode, and wow, because it's not that you weren't the same person, but what a difference in you when you talk about that experience. I even find, I was trying to explain to Mike my observations about it earlier, and I was still struggling with the words. I'm still struggling now. It moved me. It really moved me, because in so many ways it changed you, but in so many ways you were already that person, which is most likely why you were meant to go through that in the first place, to get through that, to continue on to be who you were supposed to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my mom, when I came from college, said to me, "You look the same on the outside, but you're so different on the inside." It really traumatized me. Everything I believed was turned upside down, and if all of a sudden all your foundation is flipped, you don't know what you can believe anymore. You have to start all over again with some uncertainty, and just look for things that make you happy. And I like laughter. I've always liked to laugh. And so at the big conventions, and I know I'm with you guys at the conventions, I laugh a lot. I joke around. And that's my way of letting go of the fear, because eventually I have to go in that room and talk about my experience again. And every time I talk about it, I relive it, because it wasn't just a day. It was day and night. It was week after week for months. And I honestly thought I was going to die. And so I recognize people find value in experiences like this, and I'm thankful for it. And I'm not trying to make myself sound like, oh, poor Chris, but every time I share, it takes something out of me, and that's okay. It's just, so I do have like two modes. I have not ghost mode, where I'm laughing and jumping around, having a great time. But then when it comes down to this, I just have to respect the people in my experience and what they went through, and the people who didn't make it out, and that soul. So I think I owe it to everyone who was there for me to treat it with respect. And there's a bit of a disconnect between who I usually am, which is usually bouncy and happy and laughing in these moments. But I think it's okay. I think it's a sign of maturity, hopefully. And I hope that people realize that not everyone can just flip back and forth in their lives and put things aside. Sometimes it takes a long time to get over a certain fear or pain or illness, and for me, it took me literally 20 years to be able to start sharing this in a meaningful way. And I'm so thankful, Christy and Mike. I'm so thankful that people find value in this. I mean, I'm 55 years old. I'm old now, and I don't know if I have 5
You're not old.
10 years. You know what I'm saying?
I was behaving on that one. I really was. I bit my tongue on that one.
But in other words, I don't know how much time I have here physically left. So I want to spend time sharing, hopefully inspiring, hopefully telling people to please, taste your food, listen to your music, slow it down, talk to people, because when you go by a cemetery or a graveyard, there are thousands of bodies just lying there. And most of them are still right now. Some are still active. And if they are active, it's hard to hear them sometimes. It takes work to hear them, and just what are they saying and why are they saying it? But when you're alive, it's easier. You can do it right now. And it's hard enough being alive to still not arguing with somebody and still communicating properly. Look at politics right now. It's rough sometimes, right? So when you talk about through the veil, beyond the veil, and speaking with the dead or the spirits, or that's a harder thing to do even. So make it easier for yourself. And rather than talking to grandma when she's been gone for 3 years, talk to her now when she's in a nursing home. Right. Instead of making up with your friend from high school who called you a bad name once and you go to her funeral and see your kids, talk to her now and make up before that happens, And I think that's just an important thing. I don't ghost hunt a lot. I don't go many investigations. It's not my thing. I've seen amazing stuff. It's like the Holy Grail. I've seen full-bodied apparitions. I've talked with them. I've seen these things I didn't want to see. So for me, I don't have to prove anything anymore. Now I just try to see, what does it mean, and how can I actually apply that in a positive way? And people can say, you know what, I believe you or I don't believe you. That's okay. Mm-hmm. Listen to my words. Be kind. Help people. Listen. That's the most important thing, And I think that's what I can leave people with, is that just try to be a happy person if you can, when you can.
You said
the biggest thing. Hey, listen, I thought we had this figured out.
Yeah, we talk, I talk, and we talk. All right, we got questions from the thing too.
Okay, well, real quick. I think the biggest thing that I really took from
Ladies
you,
first.
and then I said, listen, drink your whatever that is out of your bottle.
Separate.
Water.
I see strength. I don't take even watching you years ago talk about and relive it, it's like almost like a genuine understanding of what you went through, as traumatic as it was. It's almost like your soul understood that it was necessary, and it's almost, whether you realize it was coming out of you or not, that's what I saw. And that's what moved me. And it was just the strength, like, this was one of the things I had to go through in my life so my soul could do what it had to do to ascend, and I did it. And now I'm going to make the best of it because it is your choice. And that's amazing to me. So I really look up to you for that. I really do. There's a lot of people who like to use these kinds of experiences as excuses. And I have had spirit channel through me willingly and unwillingly. So I know the feeling. And it's like, that can be, when you're not ready for it or you're not in tune, in touch with your gifts, that is a very scary thing. It's scary when you are, let alone when you're not. And then when it's a negative thing on top of it, it makes it worse. So I give you a lot of credit, and I really do have a lot of respect for you with this, in all seriousness, but we can't be too serious for too long. So just say, okay, Michael, your turn.
Went way too long. So a couple of things. We got some questions in there, and Roberta's asking, did you find out who the ghost was and what the pain was caused from? And now that you've talked to Billy, Teddy, and myself, and with the documentary, did anyone go in and maybe look at Sullivan's March and see if somebody had come from somewhere else or any of that? Or did you ever go up to the ambuscade, I guess, there in Groveland, while you were doing your running and stuff?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember we were running by Groveland Station, the place like Groveland there, and I got sick and I had to stop. I started vomiting in cross country packs one time. We went to that area. That was very strange. I put together years later, but I didn't want to know who the ghost was, even after I spoke to it, because I was still afraid of a connection. I was afraid it would follow me home from college. It would attach to me. I was afraid of that, and people talk about attachments and things like that, or oppression, things like, I was just worried about that. So I didn't go back to the college for 25 years. I didn't want to think about it. I really didn't. But with the Syfy show and with Please Talk With Me and the things I was doing, the story became more public. And usually shows have like a format. There's the person talking. Behind them, people act the story out, and at the end, an expert comes on. I'm a professor, and this is who this person was. So, and Mark Burnett was the executive director for these shows, School Spirits, and it was pretty fascinating to meet some of these bigwigs. But at the end, they said, "Okay, who was the ghost?" What? Who was the ghost? I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? I didn't want to know who it was, because you're supposed to have at the end of every sequence who it was. Well, we can't do that. Who the ghost is going to be? I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't want to know. And so that's the only show they did that has no ending. It's like who it might have been. But they felt that the story is so strong in its merits, leave it as it is. So that was a cool thing. But my mom retired, doing some genealogy, and she said, what's interesting, Christopher? You had an ancestor like 1770 something like that. Yeah, he was in Pennsylvania Regiment, and that's kind of cool. And he fought, and he found some guy's dead body. He found this body. What? Yeah, some guy named Thomas Boyd. And he died in a tree by your college. I'm like, what? What? And so sure enough, Adam Bernard Hubley, my mom's side, my relatives found Thomas Boyd's body. They found the body and buried the body. They were from, or he was from, Danville, Pennsylvania. So I found this stuff out 26 years later, and it all made sense. Where he said he was from, the wounds, the intestines coming out, he was walking around the tree. All of a sudden, the name Tommy Boyd, I couldn't get over it. The relatives, the genetics, the family history, the echoes of time were just almost as strange as the actual haunting itself was, and that's a cautionary thing, because at the time I thought maybe the kid hung himself. He was a college kid, he was young, maybe, So I think it's important to make sure you follow with the facts and data lead, and not have a theory and try to fit things into that, because you might be able to get a partial theory that's totally wrong. You know, when people say they go in some place and know everything about everything, well, be cautious. You might, you may not. And it's just fascinating to me how so many people have relatives related to us. You know, you see Billy Boyd. He's out there, one of his ancestors. Yep. Linda Fox, who was in The Haunting, also descended from Thomas Boyd. Beth Kinsman, her great-great-great-grandfather fought alongside Thomas Boyd. My relative. So it's amazing that 200 years later, there's this almost commonality that people who saw these things, their ancestors were involved in these things, and somehow we all ended up at Geneseo in that moment when Lorraine Warren come and The Haunting begins, and all this thing starts to create this amazing, unbelievable experience. And I can tell you that one of the high points for me was I always thanked Father Charlie Manning. Whenever I didn't know if he'd passed away, because, you know, he's an older fella. I didn't know what happened. Whenever I spoke, and I went on a show called Coast to Coast AM with George Noory, and on Coast to Coast, I said, thank you, Father Charlie Manning, wherever you are. Because I didn't know, if he was still there. And he was in the hospital coming out of surgery. And the radio was on that channel. He's like, wait, that's me. He heard me thank him on this national radio show. And so he Facebooked me, and all somebody became friends. I get to meet him again. So what a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Michael?
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time in those areas, and, working with Billy, I never put all that together. Right. And, where I live, I took pictures a couple weeks ago, one of the sections of the march from Sullivan, right. And I spent some time in the river down near there on another thing we really don't get into. But there's a lot of weird stuff that happens through that area. And you didn't bring candy. Joe says you bring candy to your shows. Wait, that's not the right one. I saw Joe. It's the hair. It's throwing me off, Joe. And it doesn't want to let me.
Next one.
I know, but it won't let me go to that one.
I want to address that.
There we go.
Joe candy. Joe brought Tim Shaw to the very first public speaking I ever did about this. Joe brought Tim from the Buffalo area out to Geneseo the very first time I ever spoke in public, and they were there. And they were there the very first time I spoke, and I was shaking, and I was nervous to put the coin if I'm going to go out there or not. And afterwards, Tim Shaw told me, don't stop talking. Keep on sharing. I've been looking at this case for 20 years. And it's nice to know you're a real person, that it really happened, we look at these things. So Joe and Tim, they were there from the very start of this. And Tim Shaw wrote the first book about this. He had John Zaffis, the collector, do the forward for that. So again, very blessed people all around me. I am just the beneficiary of amazing people throughout my life.
Billy says we're going to break bread when you get here. Denny's is closing, though, so I don't know where we're going to go eat. Yes, Denny's. They're closing Denny's.
That's sad.
I know. I didn't want to bring that bad thing, but it's tradition, and we don't have Denny's.
Milkshakes. Oh.
All right, where did that other question go?
I was going to say, we have a few questions, don't we?
Yep. Let's see. Cheryl had one, and if you both can answer this one, this is one different. My dad passed in March. I'll be busy doing things around the house. All of a sudden, I hear his voice. It just says, "Hey, Cher." I turn around. Of course, I don't see him, but I feel him. Is there any unwritten or written rule about trying to contact a family member via EVP or spirit box? Any of you guys on that one? That's a new one to me.
I'll say something quick because I don't go investigating. I don't use spirit boxes or anything. It's just my noggin here. But sometimes when something happens to you, you remember something different. A song will play on the radio, remember something from your childhood, things like that. Well, my mom mentioned to me that when I was a young child, I would sometimes know things I shouldn't know. I was 4 years old watching the Pink Panther on TV. And I was pouring in the coloring book. And I said, "Mom, Dad fell down at work. He ripped his pants. His knees hurt. I said, what? He came home 5 hours later. His pants were torn open and his knee was hurt. So that was 1970. So then I remembered one thing. My great grandfather passed away when I was 12 years old in the fall. And the following spring, I was hitting a baseball in my grandparents' backyard, and the ball went around the corner of the house. I went to get the ball, and my great grandpa was standing there, and he went, shh. I went, and I ran. But he told me, don't say anything. Shh. So I never told anybody because my great grandpa's spirit said, don't say anything. I don't know if I'm supposed to be there or not. So I remember now seeing my great grandfather and thinking, oh my gosh, I just saw grandpa. And he said, don't tell anybody. Whoa. So I think that also was part of my understanding about ghosts. If my great grandpa says, don't say anything, I probably shouldn't. And that also was probably part of my hesitancy to talk about these things over the years. Most people do not see, even investigators, their own relatives because they don't want to see them or it's too close or when they're in their house. It's an uncommon thing. But many people who don't investigate do claim to see them. A person I went to college with told me years later when he was a small child, he was about 8 years old, his sister and he were bouncing a Super Bowl on the steps for Thanksgiving dinner. And the grandma just passed away about a month before that, and they're by her room. And as they're bouncing the ball, the grandma came through the door and said to her sister, I'll come to play with you now. And they both screamed, we saw grandma, we saw grandma. I said, stop that. And he was crying. And he said, 2 days later, my sister died of a brain tumor. So he said, my grandma came and said, come play with her. And then 2 days later, she was dead and no one believed us. And he was crying in his face. So he had no question in his mind that the grandma came back for the granddaughter. It was a beautiful thing. But at the time, you're not used to it. It scares you. And no one believes you. So you don't want to believe it because you're being judged by somebody. Their own family said, stop, you're silly. And then you look back, why did I embrace it? So Cher, if that's the case, I think you're blessed. If someone there who you love, your father's there and he wants to let you know he's okay and he's still there and you can smell his cologne or you hear his voice or things move that are his, that's beautiful. And then hopefully someday you'll see him again the way you did see him before. You know, it's a beautiful thing. Many people never see anything from somebody they miss. They never hear their mom again, dad again. They never hear their sister again, ever. The fact that you might be hearing and seeing this, what a wonderful thing. You know, I think that's a blessing, you know, and I would, in a safe way, embrace that. Get a journal and say when it happens and why. Does it happen Thursday at 8 o'clock? Was that his favorite TV show? You know, does it happen on certain days of his birthday? Just see what it might mean. And that's a cool thing to go through yourself. And maybe, you know, play a song you like in the radio. Get a record player out. Maybe, you know, put in a thing you watched on TV and maybe that'll make him feel comfortable. Maybe he wants your help. Maybe he wants some advice on something. Maybe he wants to let you know he's okay. So I don't know much about the aspect of recording and digitizing. If the person went through extreme haunting, that'd be a nice blessing if that's the case.
I absolutely agree, but I'm going to tell you what I tell most people. It's not usually a good idea. You know, you don't have to be gifted to have somebody that's passed away that you love visit you and give you signs and show you things and let you know that they're there. That's a blessing for all of us. But when you start to really delve in and you start to use tools to invite in or not, just like the priest told you, what's his face over here, Chris?
You want your face?
You don't invite it in, because once you invite something in, especially if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know that the person or the thing you're dealing with really is the person you're hoping that it's going to be. So I always usually advise against trying to actually investigate in our own homes or really anywhere if you don't know what you're doing, because, you know, you get the wrong spirits in there and they will lie. And so you have to be very careful because you don't want to invite something in that you don't want to stay. So definitely go with the flow. If you get a good feeling when you hear your name, or, you know, when you see something that allows you to make a connection automatically on the inside with someone who's passed that you loved and cared about, that's okay. It's when you start to invite things in or call upon things, sometimes using different tools and different methods. You have to be very careful because you can open up a doorway that you won't be able to close or you won't even realize you did it in the first place. And that can be very dangerous. So just be careful, just enjoy the moments, you know, and I actually like the idea of logging when you do experience these little things, you know, as long as they continue to stay pleasant and positive and you feel like it really is your father. that's a good thing. So to log, to journal it and to have a record of that, I think is a really sweet idea, actually. When you start trying to use EVPs and trying to do whatever, you really don't know what you're dealing with or what's going to kind of sneak in when you don't know. So just be very careful with that. Okay. Or just find someone who can teach you and you can learn that way, for sure. But good question.
Yep. There was another one up here, and then a lot of other people said the same thing. That kind of not a good idea to go and do your own home. Yeah. Cheryl, if he shows up down by the water, you know who it is. And from Al, have you encountered Tommy again since you confronted him?
No, I haven't seen Tommy again. I hope he found rest. I'm really hoping for that. I guess it's one of the things you really can't prove, right? Because let's say, for example, he leaves my room at 85, and he could be someplace else now, if I know. But it seemed like he found rest. No one saw him again. None of the principals saw him again. When I went back to the college to speak that first time when Joe was there with Tim, we actually stepped in the dorm room, and we spoke to a couple of people who had been living in the dorm room for a few years, and no one reported anything unusual. And in fact, I go back every year and I visit the people who live in C2D1. It's like a little shrine to the Ghost Boy, and they're hilarious. But I go there every year and say hello, and it's been quiet. It's more of a cool thing. Now, in the old days, it said that don't go in that room. It's dangerous. That area, it's haunted. Now they want that. People request that room because of the notoriety associated with it. So that's the cool room, I guess, to have. So, but I went there last year. I don't usually now just kind of knock on the door and sneak in when they open the lock for me. I sneak in real quick, like an intruder. And I remember I walked in the lobby, and this kid goes, "Oh my gosh, it's him!" He couldn't even talk. It was hilarious. Everybody around was like, "Oh, at least a positive stuff."
Did you do like a giant pizza party with that team and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I always treat people nicely. If they're nice to me, I always give right back to them. And and again, it's not a matter of the haunting itself in terms of its the details of it. It's the fact that we learn from experiences. No one wants to hear all of our bad things, but they want to hear how you get beyond those things and how you can improve your own lives and find commonalities, So none of those folks are there now. They were important. I mean, I left college 35 years ago. Their parents are that age, So,
yep.
But there's still a nice commonality that I can go back to the old place and tell people. And whenever I walk, there's like the Pied Piper. I walk with 2 people, and then 8, and then 12. This Linda was over here. Here's the ghost was over there. And all of a sudden people are like gathering around because it's a cool thing, And
yep.
Again, very grateful, very, very lucky to have that. And I even you have Marilyn in the chat room tonight, and Keith's in the chat room, and Barry, and all those wonderful people that I've met Al over the years. That just I'm blessed. I cannot say it enough. It's a wonderful thing.
And I want to put some things up. So
look at that stud.
Yeah, we got this nice young version of Chris. Again,
young Chris.
I'm going to pull up Chris's website. He's got a book. The videos are out there. We will put the links in. So let me share the other screen here. Share screen. This one. So if you're looking for Chris's book, it's right here on his Ghost Boy of Geneseo website. Oh, yeah. And I'll put the link up on there. And there's the documentation. You guys want to look a little close. Where he is, his books and his DVDs, they're there. To really get through and look and really get on there. It's really in depth what Chris has. I've had a chance to hear the story quite a few times, and it gets me every time. I have friends that were on the college campus. This is another one, and this is Jeff in Mara, correct?
That's Bill Edwards. He's the producer and publisher of Productions. Yes.
Okay. And that's the 30th anniversary, and that is there as well. Let me close that screen out. So I guess what I take, and every time I see you and listen to you speak, is the positive energy. Yeah, you were down and out, and you got yourself up, like you said, and you're winning the race. And now you bring the race to the kids so they can go ahead and move on to that next generation. And, I watched you go through with who was at the last event and signatures to show your kids who you were around and who was on TV. And, and that's a great thing. It's always that plus. It's those, and people like, oh, this person. It's not the point of TV. It's the experiences that we all share and what we can go on and share with other people. And, I tell people all the time, okay, yeah, they're ghost people, but you know what? It's their public speaking. It's their energy. It's what we got. And, our show here is about experiencing the universe, growing and getting yourself off the couch. And I am definitely not a runner, but you saw a lot of history out on those runs,
Yes.
And I always joke it always comes back to Rochester, but that energy is there. We push and we move on. And what's the next adventure for you?
The next adventure is seeing my granddaughter. I love her so much. It's amazing that your baby makes a baby. How is it even possible? And it's so
okay, when no.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed. You mentioned Maryland, and she saw your picture here. So sorry.
Marlene's glasses. But I love it that there's you can make a painting, and it can be a gorgeous painting. You can write a book. You can do certain things you can create, but creating life that can look back at you and talk and learn and grow. I like that my daughter, with her husband, made another child that's like 1/4 me a little bit, and a piece of hopefully good parts of me go into her, and that she has some good experiences. And I hope that I get to know her a little bit, before I get too old, and I hope that I'm a positive thing for her too. And I wish the best for her. She's 1 year old, and the whole world's out there for her. Anything that she wants is out there. I hope that she'll be safe. I hope she has a good, healthy life, and there's nothing better than that for me. It sounds odd, I know, but being a parent changes you. Being a grandparent changes you. So I'm psyched. I just can't wait to hold her in my arms, put her on my shoulders, and take her for a walk and show her the trees and the birds. And sorry.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my dad always says that he has, my sister has 4 kids. I have 3, and wow. A few years back now, my dad always, best thing about being grandpa, you run into people, he'd be with the grandkids, real hands-on. And he kept saying in front of us all the time, oh, there's nothing better, there's nothing better, there's nothing better. Finally, my sister and I looked at each other one day and looked at him and said, what the hell? What do you mean, grandpa? You have 2 kids right here. Like, what are you talking about? Well, he goes, oh, no, there's nothing like it. No, sorry. Sorry.
My daughter and son are amazing. But they're helping to create her down. So 50 years from now, I'll be gone. But my grandkids, great-grandkids will be having parties and laughing, get together for holidays and things. I just like the fact that I'm part of a line, of a chain. Just like with Thomas Boyd and the police finding his body and things through my ancestors and the Civil War and all that stuff right on through my parents, grandparents. I think it's amazing. And I wish I could talk to my grandparents again. I wish I could. It's an amazing thing. When your kids don't quite realize the importance of what your grandparents are. But as a grandparent, you do. That's why grandparents always seem to be around, want to buy things for the kids and take them out, because they recognize that their time is starting to wind down a bit. But I'll make sure that they leave a positive imprint on their family that they leave behind. And that was all worth the hardship and effort. So I love that. And I'm blessed. I really am.
It's funny you mentioned your grandparents. We need to talk after the show.
Sure. Yeah,
wonderful working with a medium.
Yeah, well, I was a great grandfather, snake charmer in the circus and a fortune teller. My dad's
What's
side.
that?
My great
what?
My dad's side was a fortune teller and snake charmer in the circus. She had the ball inspectors, they put the balls and things. And my great grandma read tarot cards in Italy and things. So I didn't find this out until I was much older. I never knew as a kid, but it runs all through my family, this stuff. But we never talked about it. We never knew.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, so
I've been taking notes.
Say surprise.
Welcome to my world. My first investigation. Hey, your grandfather's here. Gotta go.
Right.
I don't want to hear it. Stop whining.
Billy says, "Wow, wow, that was a quick 2 hours. Wow,
yeah, it was. Oh my gosh,
I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
Oh, we're so happy that you came on with us tonight.
I'll always be here for you. I'll always be here for you. Always,
Your energy, dude, is amazing. And you said if you want us to come down and help do technology with your students, we can do that.
Heck yeah.
And
We can tell the whole bunch
get
of
through
good
this
stories.
COVID thing.
Yeah, maybe in the fall we go back to school, right?
And maybe I can grab Billy, and the next time you're in Geneseo, and we'll grab Christy, and maybe we'll go down to the tree and see if we can get something. If you want to go down there, and
I'll be the guinea pig. I don't mind.
No, I just go down there and see what we can find.
Been there, done that. I'm made for it.
Yeah.
Seriously, though, did you? I mean, because I don't know the history of Geneseo or any of the stories or anything, if there are any more. The one thing I've picked up on since I've started looking into the school that I did not find, it just keeps coming to me. Any stories or any documentation about somebody drowning there?
I can swim pretty well. I'm lucky. You're bringing me down, Lazor. You're bringing me down.
I'll talk to you about that stuff later.
Yes.
And there he is. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, right here.
Time out. I'm on a positive vibe right now.
Yes, right, positive. Where are you going?
Listen, dude, I don't know if you understand. When I need validation, I need validation. Okay.
I can validate.
Okay, good. Moving on. See, now was that so freaking hard?
We're gonna leave it at that. I can validate.
Thank you. Now I can breathe. All right. So, were there any more questions in the audience? I want to make sure we.
No math, please.
I don't want to cut anybody else. What?
No math. Fractions. We're doing fractions.
85 miles. No,
math sucks. Math sucks. Sorry, math sucks.
But
leave Jimmy Buffett out of this.
Oh, by the way, I love what you did with the place, Chris.
This is going to be my daughter's office and son-in-law to work from. They make video games, and so they work remotely from their home. They're in Florida right now, so I figured, well, instead of being in Florida, come back to New York because both the grandparents are up here, the cousins are up here, the family. So this will be their office. I'll have an office down the hall over this way. This used to be an old basement a couple weeks ago. Now it's all fixed up nice. And then they'll be with us. So I see my friends every day. So I don't want to settle too comfortably here because they'll be here their own stuff in about 5 weeks. So I don't want to take it over. My stuff's here. I'm staying. I don't want to do
that. So we got a green screen, and you do your little remote. Like, here's your new room, and all your toys in the background or something.
What's over my shoulder?
It can work.
Yeah. I got the pool table in here. We'll use that later.
Who are you kidding? Once she gets there, it's going to be, hi, Chris, bye, Chris. Okay, where's Sophie? I want to see her. Come on, let me see her.
No, I am thrilled. Like I said, I have my family together again. My son, my daughter, my granddaughter, all in one little spot in this area. So more than the guy could ask for.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for being on today. It really is always a pleasure. Your energy is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you down in the green room because Christy's got something for you. So, and I'm going to close out the show. Yeah.
Just like band camp.
I'm not done with you yet. Oh, that's so funny. I mean, I can do it here, but
Love you guys. Thank you, everybody.
And I also like to thanks for sharing your experience. And thank you, Chris. And we're gonna sign Chris out here for a minute here. Just gonna put him down below here. So, folks, we appreciate you staying with us tonight. That was Chris Cesare, and his story is absolutely amazing, and his energy is just out there. If you can get to see Chris speak in person, you are gonna be blown away. The energy in the room is there, and as Christy and I say, we're energy people, and it's amazing. Please check out his website, and I'll put that back up there real quick. Wrong thing.
He's just
I've got too many buttons tonight. Yeah, so check out Chris's website, therealghostboy.com. That was for you folks that were on that podcast and stuff. He's awesome. We appreciate you guys for being with us. Please like, share, join with us at YouTube. Next week, we have Tara Scabella from Naked and Afraid. She's an energy healer and just an all-around awesome person. So thank you again all for being with us tonight. And I'm going to take us out. And
we really appreciate all of you. Oh,
Yep.
and okay, so one last thing though, we will definitely tally up the names, and I will post the 4 winners from the last 2 weeks of the shows, okay, for the readings, and we will go from there. All right. So,
All right.
Do we cover all the bases? Yeah, we're good.
Yes, we did.
We appreciate all of you. We can't do this without you. So thank you so much for tuning in and supporting us and supporting Chris and all of our guests. We will see you soon. Have a wonderful week. So stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we really have to work on this.